This program is designed to provide general information with regards to the subject matters covered. This information is given with the understanding that neither the hosts, guests, sponsors, or station are engaged in rendering any specific and personal, medical, financial, legal, counseling, professional service, or any advice. You should seek the services of competent professionals before applying or trying any suggested ideas.
Hi there, it's Brian Sebastian, movies and more, live on Talk 4 Media, TV, radio, and podcasting, K4HD TV, radio, podcasting, IT247 streaming, worldwide TV network, and women on TV.tv. Obviously, over 100 outlets around the world. So, I've been looking forward to this show because it's about authors. But first, we got Tennessee coming up pretty soon, next couple months, so that'll be fun. So, Trixie Jen, Custom Trends, from Houston, Texas. Terri Marie Nonstop from Redondo Beach, California. We have Hope coming in from Miami. She's having some connection problems. And maybe Chef Rachel Roberts from Houston, Texas. So I'm going to start this off with Pauline, Irene, Stacy. If it's no time to clean, Terri, you must listen to Pauline. Pauline, tell us who you are, where you're coming from.
Hi, everybody. My name is Pauline Irene Stanley, and yes, I did write the book called No Time to Clean. Listen to Pauline. That was my COVID-19 project. You know, I know we all have one of those, right? So it's a book that is very, very unique. There's nothing else like it on the market. The book was written 34 years ago, but there's still nothing quite like it on the market. It's not about tips and tricks. It's about a cleaning system.
And so, Imani, it's all about this. There was violence. This is interesting because we're in the month of April. This last 2 years, there's been a lot of people having domestic problems and things like that. So, president of Involved Foundation, host of Misconnected podcast, violence prevention, advocate, and survivor. Imani, tell us where you're coming from, because this is important. Go for it.
I'm right here in Los Angeles, California, sunny California. There was violence. It's a gritty portrayal, a memoir type novel based on my life, and it really captures the impact of domestic and street violence of which it had on my family. So it's very relevant. I'm sure we all agree there's a lot of traumatic violence that's going on locally here in the U.S. and abroad. So happy to be here with you guys.
Good to have you.
Thank you.
Talk about this. There's been a lot of stuff that's going on around the world, whether it's relationships, couples, families, and things like that. Talk about why this book came out, and then we get to end with there's no time to clean because it's April. We got to ask Pauline.
Absolutely. Well, I never intended on becoming an author. This was really incidental. And the genesis behind the book is the long and short of it. I had a close call of what I thought was going to be a street altercation here in Southern California. And the long and short of it is I thought I was going to have a fist fight with another guy, a bigger guy than I am. And luckily I was wrong. And what that left me with, it came across as this huge tipping point. And it really begged the question to myself of like, hey, what's going on with you? What happened? And what I did from there is I took a really deep look, probably the biggest exercise of introspection that I've ever endeavored, right? And I started journaling and journaling and journaling. And 3 months later, I had a 90,000 word document.
Wow.
And the takeaways was I've been traumatized by violence, both domestically and in the street in South Central LA, where I'm from. But it wasn't just about me. It was trauma affecting my siblings, causing one to get on this path of drug addiction, causing another to disassociate with their Afrocentricity, causing another to physically leave overzealously the state of California, only to get into another abusive marriage or another abusive relationship. So it became a bigger project. It's not really about me. It's like, what is violence doing to people in general? Whether it's people living in the same dwelling, whether it's people in my neighborhood, people being impacted by police brutality, narcotics and whatnot. And I came along at a very interesting time where crack cocaine really started to flood the streets, where street gangs in LA really started to gain a lot of traction. So the way that I characterize my upbringing, it's really and truly a matter of living in an emotional minefield. Like, you never knew when you were going to step on this explosive moment that really in a lot of ways was jeopardizing our safety.
I think it's one of those things where a lot of the girls can talk to about. I talk about these things with a lot of people around the world, and it's quite sad. It's happening more and more and more, and it's really sad. And for people of color, it's really, really bad, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And you know what's so saddening about it is this whole phrase, or this whole idea of Black on Black violence, or Latino versus Latino violence, when the truth of the matter is people hurt each other who are close to them. You hurt, and you're hurt by people who are close to you. And unfortunately, living in this country, there hasn't been a huge prioritization on the safety and the well-being of people of color, Black people, Latino people, and whatnot. And that was one of the most, and still to this day, it's one of the most toughest things that I really struggle with, is people being desensitized to the value of life, of people in general, but more specifically, people of color.
You know, one of the other things and Pauline knows this. You know, when I'm going through things, the first thing I do is I start cleaning. It takes my mind off of things. They're all opposites. No, I literally, while I'm talking to someone, I'm listening to this situation, I'm cleaning in their house. But the ideas are flowing to me of how to resolve that problem, if that makes sense. I'm Pauline.
Is that why you cleaned my house before when you came over?
Next time I'm coming to your house, I'm going to do a deep cleaning at your house. All right, go for it. So best-selling author on Amazon, first of all. You know, the top best-selling list on Kindle. Hasmouth Publishing best-selling author. You didn't know this was all going to happen about a year and a half ago, did you?
No. It's so interesting that you're saying that, because like I said earlier, I wrote the book 34 years ago. Yeah, 34 years ago is when I wrote the book. And I kind of like what the other gentleman was saying about how you didn't, when you come across an idea of feeling like you can help other people, for me, that was the same exact thing. Because when I came up with this system, that was just completely revolutionizing how you clean a house, which sounds so silly, but it's really true. The only thing I thought about was I have to write a book because I just wanted to share the knowledge with everybody else. I was a single mom. I was in school full time. I didn't receive any child support. My daughter was 5. I didn't go back. I didn't go to college till I was like 28 when I started. So I had to support myself, and I had to figure out how I could do all of this and do it fast. And at the time I was studying business management, and Brian, you and I talk a lot about, I call it downtime, like empty space, right, in your head. When you're cleaning, you kind of not focused on any one specific subject. So you have like room where your mind just wanders, right? Your thoughts wander. And it happened to me where I used to think every time I'd clean a house, like I would challenge myself, like, I'm going to do this house 5 minutes faster this week because I had to pick up my daughter at daycare by 6 o'clock, or they would charge me $25 for every 5 minutes I was late. And that might as well have been $1 million back in 34 years ago. So, and especially as a single mom, right? So I just kept thinking about how to do things faster, more efficiently. And then eventually I had this thought one time when I was just cleaning that about a class I had, and it was a management class, a business management class. And I think it was the subject we were studying was like manufacturing. And I'm not 100% correct, but I believe it was Ford Motor Company. It was a case study. And they studied, in business, you're always trying to figure out what the end result is to make money, right? And so how do you make people do the things you need to do? So fast, efficient, all that fun stuff, right? So they studied part going down a conveyor belt. And they had these experiments where one person would do like 3 or 4 different things to that part before it moved down the conveyor belt for the next person. And then they did the opposite, where they have one person just do one thing to that part, and then the next person. And they finally figured out that it was way more efficient. It was way more effective. They got a lot more productivity done by doing one thing at a time. So it was just swimming in my head, and I was like, well, what about cleaning, right? Because I'm sure all of you all out there, you can raise your hand. No one's ever taught us about how to clean a house. No one's ever taught us, right? I mean, even if you were a kid and you say, well, my mom taught me. Well, what did she tell you? How you throw in the vacuum line, right, Brian? We know Brian loves the vacuum line.
Yeah, mama teaches. My mom taught me how to clean.
But it was never about a system, how to get things done effectively. And so when I started thinking about this, doing one thing at a time, so, I had the opportunity because I had to clean all these houses, right, to do my own kind of little experiments. And so I started figuring out that, if I do one thing, right, so it's just the dusting, dust the whole house. And then you do all the windows and mirrors stuff and separate it out like that, as opposed to just randomly roaming around the house. I know some people will do one room at a time, but by the time they're done with that one room, they're like so over it, they don't want to do anymore, right? And so, and cleaning is just one of the most interesting topics because, again, no one ever taught us how to do it. And the American Cleaning Institute says that 34% of Americans, this is scary, are concerned that they don't clean enough. And 31% of Americans are concerned that they don't clean correctly. And one of the other things that I really wanted to be able to do was, especially to help somebody in my shoes that was a single mom and had to wear all the caps, right, was to teach people how to stop thinking about cleaning, because that's all we think about, right? It's like people that have like the 9 to 5s, right? You go home, you try to unwind, have a cup of tea, glass of wine, whatever. Maybe watch a half-hour show just to kind of adjust yourself now that you're home. You sit back and what are you doing? You're looking at the piles, or you're looking at the dirt, or you're looking at the dust, and it's never off your mind. You can never relax. And so I really tried to set this up so that people, I call it a guilt-free zone, right? So that you learn this system, you get it done, you do it once a week, that's it. Once a week, you do the cleaning. Now, here's something else that's going to blow you guys away. One of the reasons why we all take so much time to clean is this. If you look up the definition of cleaning in the dictionary, it's going to tell you the action of making something clean. If you look up the definition of organizing, I think you guys know where I'm going now, right? It's the arranging of things in a certain structure. So the average person, let's say we're going to pick a random time, and let's say you say Saturday morning at noontime, right? That's my cleaning time. That's going to do my house cleaning. And imagine that you're going to start in the kitchen and you see all the dirty dishes and you start to do dishes, okay? And then you see something on the counter and you're like, oh, where does this go? And they're like, oh, this goes in the bathroom. So now you walk clear across the house to put this one little gadget thing away, right, in the bathroom. You open the drawer and you're like, oh, this drawer's a mess. So now you start cleaning the drawer. Then now you walk all the way back to the kitchen and you go, man, cleaning just takes so long. And what does Pauline say? But you haven't cleaned. Nothing's clean yet. You're organizing. So
all right, Pauline, right there, that's what I'm going to go to Trixie, because Trixie, you just moved. So you had to clean up your old apartment and organize your new one, house or whatever it was. How did you do that?
Oh, I'm still doing it. Actually, I went today to the apartment to go do 1 hour of cleaning. And so I have the apartment for another month. And but pretty much I've already cleaned everything out and got my home ready. And I clean an hour every morning, though. That's after my coffee. That's what I do. I put on the music and I clean. And it gets my mind going. And then it flows after that. Then I do my work online and start editing, and and it just kind of helps my day flow better when I clean. And it's always after coffee because I'm energized and need to go do that. And so, yeah.
I've time to clean. So what do you do, Terri?
To what? To clean?
Oh,
What? I can't hear you, Brian. You're muffled.
because you don't have time to clean.
That's why you call me nonstop. I mean,
Boom. There we go.
well, it's hard because between work and the show, and I'm creating my own NFTs right now, and my trading. Yeah, it's hard. It's difficult.
So Imani, with this, we were talking about what you were doing on the domestic abuse side of things. You have arguments, either they storm out or they start arranging things like this. What did you do before you wrote your book? How did you take your mind off of the stuff that you went through? Because it never goes away.
Yeah, that's very interesting that you asked, because, it's like intellectually, I knew that something had happened, some significant moments that happened in my past. And, but I never took that deep dive. I never really went down the rabbit hole. So what I would use in terms of like tools or coping mechanisms, I would meditate, I would journal, I would go lift weights, I would go for a run. But and these are one of the many blind spots that I had, and I think a lot of other people have them also, is that I wasn't aware that to kind of follow this whole theme of cleaning, I was just really brushing dust off of the top shelf instead of giving it that deep cleaning that it needed. But when I started doing that deep cleaning, oh my God, and not to overuse the Alice in Wonderland reference, but I went into this new world, and I started, gaining a wider awareness of exactly what happened to me and how a lot of the violent trauma would spill over into different parts of my life, romantically, in my work life, in the corporate environment, and some of the social situations with some of my friends. I didn't know that the tentacles were that long and that active, working in the recesses of my mind. So once I actually started taking that dive, it dawned on me. It's like, dude, you've been carrying this weight like Sisyphus from Greek mythology up this hill, and you didn't even have any level of consciousness that you were pushing this big rock up the hill. So it was really putting a Band-Aid over the wound, as opposed to actually addressing the wound and stitching that wound up.
All right, Tasha. All right,
No, actually, I had a question about to Pauline about like cleaning. So how do you feel about those little like robot thingies that like vacuum your
I have
stuff?
one
Like,
of those. The Sombas.
Yes. Do you
They're
think
great.
they are great, but like in your book, does it talk about like using those like things to clean, or is it all about just doing it yourself?
I love this question, because you're not the first person to ask me. So I almost feel like people are asking me for permission. Is it okay to use a robot vacuum? But I'm going to start by telling you I have one. So they are fantastic, right? And if you think about, like I keep saying over and over again, I wrote the book to help people, de-stress from cleaning, not think about it all the time, right? And to give you more time to do things that, with your friends and your family and for yourself, right? So the whole point of the book is to teach people that, that there's a system. And if you use a system, you feel like there's, and I think Imani can understand this too, because the system is everything we use in our lives is a system, right? It helps us get through things. And so with cleaning, if you know that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, it doesn't make it as bad. But the other thing I want to say about that, Tosh, is that the book talks about the reader all the time. First, let me tell you that the book is dedicated to the reader. Okay, because I just feel everybody's pain, right? And so I understand that our lives are different, right? Just like Terri was saying, we all have different ways that we cope with things. Brian, when he's stressed, he's cleaning, right? So I say over and over again in the book, it's all about you. But it's not necessarily following exactly what Pauline is saying, but it's to help you understand that if you have a system, right, that is going to make things better for you. The robot vacuum, seriously, I don't know how old everybody here is. I'm a lot older than I look. And my sister used to watch, what's the show with the robot?
The Jetsons?
Yes, the Jetsons.
Yeah, I grew up with the Jetsons, so that was my dream to have a robot maid.
Exactly. That's right around the corner, Terri. So have no fear. Right?
I will probably get one.
But they're fantastic, and if it's something that takes the load off, by all means, use it. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I know that because the other person that had asked me this was talking about the corners. And I'm like, well, if you get the right kind, you get the kind with the long brushes, and when it sweeps around, it does get the corners, So then in between time for you guys have to understand, right? Whenever you hear the word clean, you have to remember there's a lot of OCD people out there. So I've had a lot of interaction with the OCD people. And so they will supplement the robot, right? For, their own little system after. The one person I was talking to, I remember she said that she got like a dust buster kind of thing, like a Black & Decker, and just went in the corners to kind of clean that up. But it's all what works for you. But just the idea that by using a system, it's going to take so much off your plate. I was doing some research. I did research before I wrote the book 34 years ago. There was no book like it on the market, nothing that talked about a system. So okay, this is cool. So then when I write the book and then I'm doing a few interviews and I'm like, oh, there's nothing like that in the market. I'm like, wait a minute, you forgot. There's 34 years ago. You didn't have Google. You might want to check that statement out before you keep making it. So I did. I found a couple things here and there. But I did find another cleaning system. It uses the word system book on Amazon. And the book is 170 pages long. Raise your hand if you're going to read that book. So I want you guys to know my book, you see that? I call it the cleaning man. It's 38 pages. Okay, my system, I can tell you my system. Look at all the blank pages and pictures. With all of that, there's 38 pictures. So I get straight to the point. But the other thing is that for the first 5 chapters, I don't even talk about how to clean the house. You guys want to guess what I talk about?
What's that?
Getting ready to clean the house.
How to get in the right mindset.
There we go.
Mm-hmm. How to get in the right mindset. Chapter 1 says, why do we hate cleaning? So I studied a little bit about this. And so I talk about the psychology of why we hate cleaning. And then I give a lot of explanations and a lot of good ideas on how to change your mindset to make it more pleasant, right? And so one of the many, we won't talk about them all, but just to give you some really good ideas is back when I wrote the book, I outlawed the word rags. And I started using the phrase cleaning cloth. Lo and behold, who would have thought 34 years ago that they came out with cleaning cloths, right? Mm-hmm. But I got some props for you guys, right? So most people, they pull out their cleaning rags on cleaning. They look an old baby's face cloth, right? Old rag. So this is what people pick out, right? I say microfiber cleaning cloths, everybody. You see the colors, right? Right off the bat, that changes your attitude about the cleaning, the way we dress, most people think, oh, well, I'm dealing with dirt, so I got to put on my old crappy jeans and an old t-shirt and da-da-da-da. And I want everybody to know, in the book, I tell everybody, this is how you should dress. Imagine that you're going to have a surprise visit from somebody from college or school, whatever. Okay. And you don't know they're coming. And it's your cleaning day, right? And so you're an hour into it and they knock at the door and they say, hey, let's go to lunch. I say the way you should be dressed and have, is that you could literally take off the gloves, wash your hands, grab your keys and roll. And what does that mean? That means that just dress casually, dress that you feel good enough about yourself. When I was clean, I would go to school full time. I dropped my daughter for school. I would go to school for 4 hours. Then I would have to, I was in a lot of extracurricular activities. So then I would meet with the president of the college and this and that. And so I didn't have time to change my clothes. I had to go clean a couple of houses before I go pick up my kid, right? So I realized after all those years in all those houses, you know how many outfits I ruined? 0. It was nothing happened. I mean, unless you're using bleach, right? If you're using bleach, right?
So with that, Imani, how long did it take you to write your book? Because your book is thicker, first of all.
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
Your book is deep. Now, Terri doesn't know about your book, but I know she can relate to the things that she went through.
Yeah, it took me so in total, to answer your question, about 2 years, and that's writing the actual paperback, and then just taking a year off and going to grad school, and then coming back and resuming the book, and then recording and editing the audio book. So in total, it took about 2 years, and it is about 177 pages. It's funny that Pauline mentioned the word or the number 107. I'm like, how did she read my book? But yeah, it took a good 2 years.
Terri, tell Imani what you went through in being in a relationship again, because more people talk about it, more and more. It's not a coincidence.
I basically I don't really want to. I not really wanting to talk about it today, Brian, but I just went through a really bad divorce, and I went through I got hurt really bad. I'm dealing with some other things right now, and I've learned when it's not appropriate to talk about it, to put my boundaries up. I'm not going to talk about it today because I'm dealing with stuff with my mom. I'm sorry, it's just not the time to talk about it.
Can I comment on that?
Yeah, I've learned my boundaries. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know. If you're not finished, go ahead.
No. I went through therapy for a long time with my post-traumatic stress disorder, and right now I just don't want to talk about it. And I have to. And the thing is, I've learned, and I guess maybe this is a good time to talk about it. When you go through trauma, you go through stress, and when people put you on the point and you don't want to talk about that subject, you just tell them you don't want to talk about it and just do what I just did. Sorry.
Right. No. And to that, I think it's great that you can communicate that you're not ready to address that.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest takeaways from writing this book is the level of empathy that I have for so many people. And quite frankly, some people in my own neighborhood and even my own family that I strongly resented, because I felt like they were sources of disruption, and all I wanted as a young man was peace. So when you're talking about
Oh, we lost you.
Went sideways.
I thought it was my internet for a second. I'm like, oh.
The good thing he had pants on. Can you imagine?
When technology looks good, it doesn't, it's not.
Yep.
And he's back.
Now he's still working on it.
Oh, okay.
There we go. Yay. There you go.
No, Brian, I can relate to what he was saying. It's just I didn't mean to be like, I don't want to talk about my current or my situation that I had in the past. But I don't know if that makes any sense. You got to learn. You got to learn boundaries on what triggers your stress. Your stress. I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. And can I throw my 2 cents in here? Because I wanted to say so bad when Terri was apologizing, don't apologize, because she's learned how to protect herself and how to deal with that, And so it's not easy to tell people that you don't want to talk about something, you know, and I could tell she was almost like uncomfortable with saying it. But I just want to say that I have a lot of respect for you, for your strength to be able to say, this is not the time or the place for me to talk.
Yeah, because I mean, I've talked about it before when I'm in the right place, you know, and I'm just
Right.
like, my mom is not as highly health issues, and we all go through that. So that's another part of trauma I have. So right now is not the time to be bringing that, because I'm trying to work on positive things in my life right now. And if I'm bringing in, like, thinking of it, because sometimes I bring in negative things that came in the past, and if you don't have post-traumatic stress disorder, I don't know if you can. Some people don't understand this, but then it affects other projects I'm trying to do, because then it gets me into depression. Just talking about it. So I've learned, like, okay, like, I don't want to bring up that dirt right now, because I'm working on positive things, and it's going to take me out of my groove. Does that make sense?
And Terri, that makes so much sense, because they say that anything that we like, we go through trauma, and then, we try to, I don't know how, we all say we're trying to deal with it. But the point is that if you just keep reliving it, that they show there's studies on your body and on your brain that every time you talk about it and relive it, that you create all the same chemicals, and your brain actually feels like it's going through it again. So you're really truly reliving the trauma every time you talk about it. And that's why I'm saying that it's very, I'm impressed by your strength to be able to say this is not time, because whether you have projects to work on or not, we need to find how to create, stress-free lives and positive lives. And so, yeah, I agree.
Right. And that's one of the reasons that, and I'm sorry for I don't know what's going on with my tech, but like, that's one of the big bullet points that I'm pushing is addressing your violent trauma and positioning yourself to relieve yourself of all of this negative emotion, so you can actually free up emotional bandwidth and sharpening your tools where you can enjoy relationships better, where you can get to the business of being happier, where you can get to the business of adding days onto your life. I can't tell you guys, like, I think I had a pretty good life about 6 years ago, but the whole exercise of just really just diving into my past and coming to terms with a lot of the trauma that happened to me, and coming to terms with my accountability and all of that, man, it's brought about a level of peace that I've never really experienced. And I just really want to encourage the people, and that's the whole purpose of this book, is just to just really model what that looks like, and going from a place of coming from a traumatic background or a traumatic past, to then progressing and then moving into this emotional space where you're not afraid of dealing with your thoughts, where you don't have to have the TV on as background noise to distract you, which is keeping you essentially from getting to the bottom of whatever is ailing you. And like, I haven't owned a TV in 6 years, and I'm very comfortable with my own space. I'm very comfortable with tackling emotional problems and stress head on, and then just getting it out the way, just to kind of follow the cleaning whole theme of this, is just putting that garbage in the trash and letting the garbage man take it away. And I think what is really problematic, a couple of more things, quick points, is one, people, it's Groundhog Day. They have this issue, they're traumatized, and they kind of deal with it, but they don't fully address it. And then that issue comes back with a different face and a different pair of pants. And then the other thing that I would add on to that is, and this is what incensed me a lot about what's been happening in this country in the past 4 years, is desensitizing people to the effects of violence, right? When I think of what happened January 6th, and how that ripple impacts families, and how that ripple affects people on a biological level, I really feel bad for them. And these poor people in Ukraine, I'm like, man, these people are going to be traumatized with warfare for a very long time. And what's happening in parallel, you have politicians and talking heads really trivializing it. And it's like, if you dealt with the kind of violence I did, you would have a better appreciation, and you would have a more humane approach, and be more sensitive, and not be so cavalier of talking about violence, because it impacts people on so many levels in your inner circle, in your family, your colleagues, romantically, like it did for me to some degree, until I aggressively tackled it.
Yeah. And then it goes on for generations, right? If it's not dealt with, then, you know, we keep bringing it to the next generation and to the next generation. And a lot of times, you know, I've studied where they say that, you know, we're living our great grandparents' lives and our, you know what I mean? Like so many things in us that we don't know that are so subconscious, you know, that is subconscious, right? That we do a lot of our habits, the way we think about whether it's relationships or money or violence, for example, right? Like the way we think about things. And so we just kind of, it's subconscious and we just pass it on to the next generation, and until it's dealt with out loud and not desensitized, right? I mean, people need to understand nothing happens to one person. And, you know, and I almost feel guilty that I'm on the same show with you, Imani, because it seems so true to talk about house cleaning. But, you know, I said the first 5 chapters about the psychology of it. Why do we hate it? How to get in a better mindset to get it done. Because it's something just like, you know, if something bad happens to you, the same thing with cleaning. We have to do it. We have to deal with it. It's there. It doesn't go away. It doesn't disappear because you just don't deal with it, right? It just gets worse. And then, you know, it sounds horrible to compare violence with house cleaning, but people.
Well, I mean, it's like I use one of the quotes from one of my favorite TV shows on HBO called The Wire, and all the pieces matter. And when you're talking about generational violence and trauma, who introduced it to our family? By and large, it was my mother. And why did that happen? Because this was a trivialized woman who was beaten, who was raped, who there was attempted kidnappings on her person. And she was going through life believing that she was giving us a better life than she had, and that she was less heavy-handed than my grandfather was. But what was happening in reality, she didn't have a level of consciousness to understand that she didn't have a strong set of emotional tools to raise kids without heavy violence. She didn't have a wide awareness of what it was doing to us, what it was doing to her children, what it was doing to me. And I talk about this in the book, what it's doing to her children to watch their parents fist fight, what it's doing to their children to watch their parents engage in gunplay. So one of the best things I ever heard from one of my therapists in the past is, he said, you know, when you get in a relationship, it's not just you and this other person. It's you, this other person, their family, your family, and all these other variables that are all huge ingredients in this pot that you're calling your relationship. And that's why it's so crucial and important to understand to the best of your ability who these people are you're getting into relationships, whether it's romantically or they're just casual friendships. It's really important to know what you're getting into, because you might be repeating a cycle.
And that's why I've been single for 6 years. So
Hey, join the club.
Hey, Trick, tell everybody where you come from, what you're doing. Because again, I'm the one that listens to a lot of these situations around the house. Pauline, the reason that I love to clean is my mom went through what Imani was talking to. She had anxiety. Her anxiety forced her to clean, which ended up making us kids get up at 2 in the morning to clean the house. That's how I started to doing it. I'm like, oh, this must be normal. No, it's not normal. That's what my mom was going through, what Imani just said. I just happened to enjoy it, so I turned it around to a different situation, if that makes sense.
It does, but I want to tell you, one of the things that I've learned is the concept of, like, your mom is just classic example, right? Mm-hmm. The reason why your mom was so into the cleaning is because that's something she could control. Does that make sense? That
was my mother too.
There you go, right? Mm-hmm. So when you feel like your life is out of control, and you try, and people say, oh, this person's OCD, you really look into whatever the OCD is, right? And it's not always just cleaning. There are other things like, you know, germs and whatever, or organizing. That's what it is. It's about control. So they are taking their focus so they don't have to deal with what's going on back there, right, Imani? Right? Mm-hmm. And just replace their thoughts and their time, and be busy doing something that they feel like they can control. And so I'm happy for you, Brian, that it got passed down as something that you enjoy. Because like I said, that's what I spend the first 5 chapters talking about, is how to get people in the mindset to make it not such a horrible thing. You know what I mean? And so, dressing right, feeling good about yourself, using the right kind of equipment and tools makes all the difference in the world. It just doesn't feel like such a dirty job. And then when we talk about feeling overwhelmed and having to deal with trauma, like let's look at people ask me all the time, well, have you dealt with hoarders, right? A lot of those people are traumatized, and that's how they deal with their stuff. They just want to hang on to their stuff. They can't let it go. And so
7 hoarders houses.
Yeah.
Not fun. Not fun.
And so how do you deal with that, right? And so it's a lot of the psychology. And so I always say I wrote the book not for just people that clean, but for people that don't clean. Because if you use a weekly system and if you're cleaning only 1 day a week for a couple of hours, that's it. Okay. You're going to see that there's going to be no overwhelming. There's going to be no piles of stuff. You get what I'm saying? Because every week you're doing it. So it's light and it's easy. And then that gives you time. Like if you follow me on social media, I give all of these other tips and tricks and all of these, Imani was talking about tentacles. I'm like, yes, believe it or not, again, cleaning is the same way. There's so many tentacles to it, right? And so I give all these other tips and tricks about stuff like that, about the psychology and whatever. But
I do have a question. I don't mean to interrupt.
No, please.
But it's been on my mind, and I want to ask you, is there a certain product that you enjoy using the best, that you may find more remarkable than the others? I mean, what works the best? Especially for the bathrooms. So, you can tell me that.
So what I did in my book, and a lot of it was because, again, it was written 34 years ago. So when I brought it back about a couple of years ago, all the products, changed or whatever, right? Technology, things get better, like microfiber cloth. So I stayed away in the book. I stayed away from like naming brands. There is a complete list of exactly what you need, the type of product. Okay. But the teaser for that is, if you follow me on social media, go on my social media and you will see, I call it Pauline's Pearls, right? And so every once in a while, I will deliver my recommendation. But trust me when I tell you, I'm not just saying, oh, this works good. Like when you have the opportunity to clean a lot of places, right? You start to have an opportunity to experiment, try this, try that, try this, try that, right? So that's the good thing about going through that. And so, yes, I found some phenomenal stuff.
Oh, you're killing me. You're killing me. Tell us.
I know.
She's smart. She's, telling everybody to go to her social media.
Check it out.
Cookie.
But the other reason is because if I just name it, that's one thing, right? But if you go on the social media, you're going to see, like, again, I'm all about science. I'm all about, why is this a thing? Why does this work, right? So you're going to see, you'll be able to read why this works so well, and then see some like before and afters too. But I just want you guys to know that I'm all about everything in my life, cooking, cleaning, whatever the heck it is, right? Relationships, I make that easy. I haven't been in one in like 25 years. So that's it. That takes care of that. And I like to make things easy. And so I want to, when I'm cleaning, like I read this. So I was reading this thing when I was looking to see if there's
5 minutes. You're going to send everybody to your website.
Yeah. So I was reading this thing where it's talking about somebody's like trying to help people with like a daily cleaning schedule, And so it's saying on Mondays, clean the bathroom, and on Tuesdays, dust and vacuum, and every day. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm trying to teach people how to stop thinking about cleaning. They've got them cleaning every single day. But this other one was like these little guidelines, and they're like, one of the guidelines was start with the projects that need chemicals, and use the chemicals and let them soak, and then go do something else. And I'm like, oh my God, what the hell's going on over here? Like, what if you clean your house once a week for 3 or 4? No more, it won't take you more than 3 hours when you do my system. I guarantee you that. But the point is like, what the heck do you need chemicals, all these big chemicals for, right? And soaking things and whatever. So anyway, but yes, seriously, I'm not, I mean, yeah, we all got to get people to follow us on social media.
Tell them where you can get your book. We're running out of time. Go.
Amazon. Just go to Amazon. You can get it at Amazon. You can get it at Barnes and Noble, all the places you can get any book.
All right, Trixie, tell us what's going on with you. Because Pauline doesn't know who you are and where you're going to.
I'm Trixie Jen, and I have a show called Custom Trends and Being Proficient on Custom Trends TV. And now that things have gotten better, I'll be covering the Cannes Film Festival, and hopefully things go well out there. I hope there's no traveling issues. And I'm very excited to be covering that. And also the Global Short Film Awards and Couture Fashion Show on Saturday, May 21st. But I'll be covering all week long from May 17th through the 23rd. So it's going to be a wonderful time. So be sure to check my website and get more updates. And don't forget to drink freaking cold water. This water is really amazing. And I'll be at Funny Car Chaos in Baton Rouge, Louisiana this Saturday. So be sure and check me out there. I'll be promoting some freaking cold water and talking to some drivers out there, some pro drivers. So, yep, a lot of fun.
She's also a silver and bronze Telly Awards winner also.
What's that?
Josh, go ahead.
No, I was saying, Trixie, I was like, are you sure that's water? Because it looked like a little type beer in there.
I have some cold water too. I've been drinking it every day.
Yes, it's really good. It is really,
Stay
it looks
hydrated,
almost like
my
a beer can. Yeah, it does kind of look like a beer can almost.
It does.
Yeah.
But
Don't drink it in the car.
Yeah.
It caught my
water
teacher
cold
drinking
though.
something. What's that?
The can helps keep the water cold.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's really refreshing. It's really good. So go online and freaking cold mountainspringwater.com, and you can order a case or a pallet, whatever you'd like. Check them out.
Well, a quick little short before we bounce off. I have exciting news. I haven't said it to the world yet, but I am letting you guys know. You guys are the first ones to hear it. I have a new single coming out April 29th officially with a music video. So I'm pumped. I've been working on my press releases, my social media posts. I've been like going like super 100% on like getting everything ready for the release day. And I'm excited. Brian, I sent it to you, so you better watch it and let me know what you think. There's lots of dancing, lots of good times in there. I have professional dancers, and it's a fun time. I'm excited.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, congrats.
Congrats, man. Can't wait.
It's going to be a good...
I know that, but you can talk about something positive.
What,
Terri?
Brian?
Terri can talk about something positive. Go ahead.
I couldn't hear you.
Yeah.
Well, you guys can find me on social media on terrimarie.com and then Nonstop Terri Marie on all platforms. Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. It's Nonstop Terri Marie.
Imani, go ahead.
You can get the book, There Was Violence. It is a powerful, and these are not my words, these are other people's words. It is a powerful, highly engaging book that people are finishing in a day and a half, 2 days. Wow. You can get it on Amazon, paperback, ebook, the audiobook, which I narrate myself. I do a pretty good job at it. Social media, just go to Instagram and Twitter and search There Was Violence, and you will find me. And I have an announcement also. In June, I'm launching a show called Survivor Stories, which is going to be phenomenal and brilliant. It is all content geared towards the support and advocacy of dealing with violent trauma. So there's going to be a combination of industry experts, people from Ukraine, for example, people from January 6th, but this is going to be launching in June. So join social media or follow me. There Was Violence on Instagram and Twitter for the big announcement. And if in case you get lost, go to the official website, therewasviolence.com.
Talk about your podcast real quick.
Oh, my podcast. Forgot about that. I'm doing so many things. My podcast is called Misconnected with Imani. It's all geared towards helping people connect the dots. There's so many people who are connecting the wrong dots. And what I'm doing in my podcast is giving social commentary and hot takes on topical issues like the infamous slapping with Will Smith and Chris Rock, anything from January 6th to politics. So it's covering a lot of ground where I'm doing something that I'm pretty good at and I love, which is breaking down social constructs and social events and big moments, and then just really simplifying it and helping people just to kind of just digest it in a very easy fashion.
And with that, I want to thank everybody, and Roxy, Terri, Tosh, Pauline, everybody out there. And I say this: have a good night tonight, a better day tomorrow. And if you see someone without a smile, this is really, really important. Please give them one of yours, because the world needs it. I'm Brian Sebastian, movie reviews and more. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.